Yeah, it's like we're setting ourselves up for China's success in the Pacific. Hey, welcome back to another naval news segment. First, let me talk about where I've been for the past 2 weeks. I'm getting a ton of messages as to why have the videos gone down a little bit. That's because I'm working on a very detailed look at the Moskva Slava class cruiser that was recently sunk in the Black Sea. We're doing a subbrief on that topic that should come out, I'm thinking sometime next week, over on the Patreon side. So definitely check that out if you're interested in a detailed look into the life and times, design, construction, operation, all the systems, including the electronic warfare systems that failed them in the attack that sank the Moskva, coming up very soon. But today's news comes at us from USNI News. I recommend everyone go to the U.S. Naval Institute, usni.org, for more news like this. They do fantastic work over there. I'm a member. I support them. I would encourage everyone to become, at least create a free account and show them your support that way over usni.org. This story is written by Mallory Shelbourne, a great journalist over there, titled "Navy Will Endure Strike Fighter Gaps Until 2031, Lawmakers Say." These are the congressmen responding to the Navy after testimony and stuff. And so they had their own hearing talking about what the Armed Services Committee has found. They've done the math, and it turns out the Navy request and projections for budget and spending comes nowhere near what the Navy themselves are saying that they need to, complete 9 carrier air wings, which is what we have now. But they're not going to have them in strength until 2031 is the TLDR. But let's read from the piece here, written by Mallory. It says, despite recent projections that it would eliminate strike fighter gaps in the next 3 years, the Navy now won't have enough jets to train and deploy effectively or efficiently until 2031, 2 lawmakers say. So this is Representative Donald Norcross of New Jersey and Representative Vicky Hartzell from Missouri, the 2 top lawmakers of the House Armed Services Committee Air and Land Forces Subcommittee. So it's a subcommittee down below that. Disclosed the new timeline that we're going to talk about today. Real quick, who are we talking about in terms of these representatives? Here we have Donald Norcross, and this is his district on the New Jersey side of Philadelphia, in New Jersey, obviously. And then the second one is Vicky. I can't say her last name. Hartzler, I think is how you pronounce it. And her district is between Kansas City and Jefferson City over there in Missouri. Okay. So those are the 2 politicians we're talking about, and they're calling out the Navy on some incorrect math that they have been presenting to Congress for years now. Years. This goes back a long time. But let's read from the piece here. Norcross, the chairman of the panel, noted the committee was skeptical on the Navy's previous projection that it could get rid of the fighter gaps, close the fighter gaps, have enough fighters by 2025. And that was last year, I believe in 2021, they might have had that projection. The Navy might have had it. But now we're going to quote Norcross this year saying, the chairman saying, and 1 year later, our skepticism proved warranted, and the Navy now informs us that the strike fighter shortfall will not be resolved until 6 years later, 6 years after 2025, like 9 years from the time of this hearing, right? But 6 years after the projected time, the gap will not be filled until 2031 because of further unplanned reductions in the F-35 purchases. Now buying as many F-35s as they, said they would or intended to budget for, and they just didn't. And the reduced aircraft inductions into the F-18 modification program. So the F-18, I think we're up to the E Foxtrot now, is going to get a Block 3 upgrade that gives it a lot of new capability. A lot of the same capability that the F-35 has is going into that Block 3 for the Hornet. And they've reduced the number of planes actually getting that Block 3 upgrade. So that's what they're talking about here. And then there's a video here. You can watch the whole over hour-long hearing if you want to watch this. I recommend you go to the usni.org and click on their YouTube video here. But it is over an hour long. I'm giving you the condensed version here. So Hartzell, this is Vicky now saying, and she's a ranking member of the panel, says the Navy would, quote, have a strike fighter shortfall through fiscal year 2031, with China on a determined path to match and surpass the capabilities and capacity of Western air forces, sacrificing operational readiness and accepting exceptional near-term risk for future long-term modernization and development, unfortunately, is no longer a luxury the United States possesses. And she's spot on there. Listen, whenever Congress, especially this Armed Service Committee, gets something wrong, I'm the very first one to point it out here for you. But in this case, the Congresswoman is right in this case. Maybe back in the 1990s after the fall of the Soviet Union, and we had this resurgence of, a bright new future working together. And then we started experimenting instead of developing tested technologies with things like the Zumwalt program and the LCS program and the eventually canceled Seawolf program after they built 3 of them. And then they moved into we basically wasted 20 years of development playing with technologies that eventually failed. And so we gave countries like China a 20-year chance to catch up, and they've taken advantage of that. They have. And in terms of number of ships, they have surpassed us greatly. China has. And so we no longer have the luxury to say, hey, we're going to sacrifice short-term capability today so that in 6 to 9 years, we'll have capability then when we really need it. We really need it now. Yeah, we don't have that luxury of time anymore. She nails it on the head when she says that. She goes on to say, quote, the large number of proposed near-term aircraft divestments, in other words, not buying them, coupled with decreased procurement numbers with both the Air Force and the Navy budget proposals, the future year's defense program raises concerns that the services are being forced to use their tactical aircraft fleets as bill payers for the modernization of priorities. So that is a great point, that they're taking money away from maintaining and even improving the current airplanes that we have, so that we can modernize a few on the side. And we're sacrificing really from both. We're not modernizing as many as they intended to, and we're not buying as many as they intended to. And do you think for a minute that we're spending less money while we're reducing both modernization and purchases? No, spending is going up somehow. That's a freaking miracle of accounting, that they're somehow spending more money buying less things and modernizing less planes. I wonder where that money's going. Back to the piece. Asked what the strike fighter inventory would be in 2027, 2028 would be a hypothetical, should there be a hypothetical conflict between China. The Rear Admiral, who was at this hearing, Andrew Loselli, I think I'm saying his name right, the head of the Chief Naval Operations Air Wing Directorate, said he could not provide a number. Now, that doesn't mean he didn't know it, and maybe it did, but it's also probably a specific number is probably classified. This is an unclassified hearing, so if he knew the number, he probably couldn't say publicly. But on the downside, we really don't know what that number is either. So, yeah. He says, quote, we're at 0 in 2025 last year. This year, we're at 13 in deficit in 2025. We redo these numbers every month, he said. So every month they're recalculating how many planes they're actually going to have, going forward. So these numbers are clearly in flux. But I believe here Congress is saying to them, hey, stick to your proposed plan. Buy the planes you plan to buy, and don't come to us with this plan saying that you need 44 planes, per carrier air wing of just strike fighters alone, not counting all the other things that go into a carrier air wing, and then come at us with a budget of, instead of buying, numbers that meet the 44 planes, you're buying, you say you're going to buy 20 planes, and then you actually only buy 13 planes. The numbers are always going down while costs are going up. And so the Congress is saying, hey, tell us write budgets that you're actually going to execute. And so here's a great little graphic. If you go to the website, where it shows you the Navy says it needs 44 strike fighters per carrier air wing, plus aircraft for training and other aircraft for maintenance. This is what the service says it needs for 9 carrier air wings. But the House Service Committee is not convinced of the Navy's math for some time. This goes back to the history I was talking about. In the fiscal year 2022 policy calling analysis into question, the committee has cited Service Life Modification Program, that's the SLM program, the removal of 104 aircraft from the SLM program. So instead of modifying 104 FA-18s, they just removed them from the program. That's huge, especially whenever you need 44 per carrier air wing. That's more than 2 carrier air wings. So it's almost 3. Also, they're buying fewer F-35C Lightning II Joint Strike Fighters purchases than previously predicted. So, yeah, so the Navy's not coming to Congress with an honest proposal, and then whenever they write their budget and the Congress sees what they're actually budgeting for, the numbers don't add up. And it's making us fall further and further behind, taking longer and longer to meet our fighter, or to close the fighter gap so that we have enough fighters for all of our carriers. And something that I mentioned earlier, but I don't think I made a video on this, so I'll mention it now, is there is a Government Accountability Office report to Congress that says, hey, Congress, did you know this? That the Navy is going to strike from the list of ships 77 ships in the next 5 years. They're going to do 24 of those ships by the end of fiscal year 2023. That's more than one ship a month. And a lot of these are capable Ticonderoga class cruisers. The less capable littoral combat ships, LCSs. So 24 ships are going to be gone in the next approximately 18 months, more than one a month. And then for the next 4 years after that, we're going to be decommissioning 13 ships a year, while building how many? Approximately 9. And not all those are warships. So we're going to have a deficit. In other words, we're going to be trending negative in our VLS and our sortie capability. Our sub VLS numbers are going to be going down for the next, who knows, probably, 8 years now. Here, I even have a graph for it. Here, look at this. You can see that the years around 2028 is where all these graphs reach rock bottom. This is the undersea or submarine VLS capability is going down to about 500-ish, roughly, before it begins to rebound. In 2028 here, we have, approximately just more than 8,000 surface VLS capabilities. This is because we're bringing on a Constellation class frigate class at the same time we're decommissioning a lot of Ticonderoga class. So we're trending negative in our strike capability. This is huge. And then our undersea torpedo capability is on a negative decline for the next 10 years, as well as the sortie generation. This is what we were talking about in this story here, is that we see a negative trend over the next 6 to 8 years before it then plateaus. And then look at what happens after 2030, after we fill the fighter gap, supposedly, if the Navy actually, fulfills its commitment to do it by then, it then plateaus and then falls negative again. So what's the plan after 2030? I don't know. This is just a tragedy right here. The Navy is going to be the weakest it's been since any time post Vietnam. Yeah, it's going to be the weakest since it's been since the 70s in terms of capability, in terms of number of ships, VLS capability, sortie capability. And that weak point is going to happen between 2028 approximately and 2029. And so if another belligerent out there wants to take action, I don't know, against Taiwan maybe, we're not going to be in a good position to do anything about it. Yeah, it's like we're setting ourselves up for China's success in the Pacific. And it's a shame. Yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. Leave a comment. I'm working on that Moscow video, okay? And we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.